Okay, before we move on to look at this more closely, remember you can always use your mouse and click inside of Google to get input on what the functions do. So if I click on the if here, it'll tell me exactly how to lay out the if expression. So here we can see that if, you need to first do a logical expression, then you need a comma, right? And here it would even give you examples. So as an example of how to write this. And then after the comma, you need to have if the value is true. So remember here we're testing, is C2 not NA? That means it is a group that is valid. The students can choose this group. So it's not NA. Bigger than, smaller than means not. So that is true. So if that's true, then you go ahead and you do this. And then the next comma is going to be if it's false. So you see value is false. And what did we do over here? After that next comma, we have NA. So that means if there is no group number, then go ahead and write NA. That means no group number. So we're not going to do that. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and say this group number is possible because it's group 1. So we're going to go ahead and run this formula right here. We can go ahead and click on any part of that formula, like here, sum if, and you can see that the Google helper will go ahead and show you how to write that function. So you can have functions inside of functions. So this is a sum if that's inside of this function. Let's look at this a little bit more closely to give you an idea of how it's actually written. Okay, what we have here is the formula we were just looking at, and we're going to go ahead and try to understand it in a little bit more detail. So I think this beginning part we don't need to worry about, right? So this part here is just testing, can this group be a real group? Can this be a real number? And then we have this comma here. So yes, we're okay. Group 1 is okay. It's not NA. Not NA. So that means it can be. So then we're going to go ahead and we can run this code here. Now this code at the back, we're also not going to worry about because this is, if that's not true, then what do? You show NA. Not applicable. It's like not a real group. So, you know, this is not our issue. So the test is going to be true. So this if test is going to turn out to be true. And if that's true, then we need to run this. It's after the comma and before the next comma here. Now, there is another comma here, but this is not part of that. This comma is inside of another function, the sum if function. So you can have functions inside of functions. It can get very complicated very quickly, but as long as you kind of follow it step by step, it's not that difficult. Okay, let's go ahead and look at what we're doing here. We're going to use this name, join group, which is what? What is this? This is a sheet. This is a Google Sheet. And this Google Sheet is linked to a form. So this is really powerful. We're going to go there and we're going to grab some data. Now, how do we name it? We give it the name. That's exactly the name of this forms sheet, which is join underline group. You have to use the exact name. Then you use the explanation point, or what we call the bang. And then we say, where do we want to look inside of here? And we're going to look at C from C2. And then we're going to go all the way to, so it's from, and then to C. And because this C has no number on it, that means just go all the way down to the bottom. Grab everything in the C column. So we're going to grab just all of the C column. And what are we going to grab? Any of the numbers that are there. And what are those numbers? Those were the group numbers that the students want to join. So this is join group number. And what are we going to test? We're going to test if it is equal to. Now here, what we have is a formula. right? And then here we have a comma because this formula tells us you need to sum something from somewhere if it equals something. So we're saying go to this sheet, look down the C, make a sum, but not just everything, only if it is equal to this number here. Now, what we could do is we could give it a number. We could say equal to 1. And if we said equal to 1, we need to put this in quotation marks. So for example, if we come back to our sheet and we go ahead and we click on this sum if, you can see that Google explains this to you. It says sum if the range, that means the area you want to grab, and what do you want to test. And here, if we click here, it shows us an example. It's a really great example, right? Sum if from A1 to A10, and then in these quotation marks is larger than 20. So these quotation marks is the way you have to write this formula. You need to write this formula this way. Now this sum range, we're not going to use that. That's a sub range, so we're not going to worry about that. If we click here, we get the overall, and we get an example of an overall here. If we click here on the range, it will show us this idea of what the range is, right? So this has lots of explanation here. And if you have the Chinese version, it could be in Chinese. If you have the English version, it could be in English. That's super, super useful. Of course, you can also just use AI like Google's Gemini, which would be very helpful also. But right here, built in, it can help you. Now, it told us that we need to use the quotation marks. We need 2 quotation marks. We need one here and one here. So we could do equal to 1. But we didn't do equal to 1. Why? Because we want to make this not 1, but we want to make it equal to the value that's on the current page. So we want to make it equal to, in this case, C2, because C2, remember, is down here, C2. And if we're doing this row here, we want to make it equal to C3. And if we're doing this row here, we want to make it equal to C4. So we want to be able to write the formula, and then we can just grab it and pull it down, and it will automatically adjust these numbers to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for us. We don't need to write the code for each and every one. So the key to doing that is here what we do is we don't have the number 1. So we go ahead and we write the, let me adjust it here. We write the equal sign, and we go ahead and we use the quotation mark, but then we add the C2. Now, the $ means you must be C. You cannot change C. It has to be C. But you see 2 here, we do not write $C, $2, because that would mean it cannot change. It must be C2, always C2. We don't want it to always be C2. We want one row down to be 2, 3, 4. We want this number to change. We want this number to grow when we drag the formula down. So we don't use the $ there. We just use the value. And this value, if we pull down the formula, it will automatically adjust for us. So here we have equal to C2. Now this is not inside quotation because this can change. The quotation is an absolute value. And we need to add this ampersand here, this and, because this is putting these formulas together. It's adding them together like a string. So this string is the equal sign plus this string, which is going to be C2, which we know is going to be 1 for the first row and 2 for the second row and 3 for the third row. So in the end, what the sheet is actually going to see, what the computer is going to see is it's going to see this. It's going to see equal to C2, quotation mark, but actually it's not going to see C2 because C2 we know is actually the number 1. And then another row down is going to be equal to 2. And another row down is going to be equal to 3, right? But this is the way we write the formula so that it can be changeable. It can be movable, draggable. So Google tells us we need this comma here, and then we need the location or the value we're going to make. So here we have equal, and we could have a value, but we're not going to use a value. We're going to use a location. So we use the combine, which is kind of like plus sign, and then we're going to say C2. So let's look back here and use show you exactly what this looks like. So here we have the empty seat formula. You can see if I move to D2, you can see that C2 is 1, right? And we have all of these rows here. Now the empty seats are going to be calculated. So I'm going to go ahead and move down 1. And if you see the formula up top, what's happening? It's changing, right? It's changing. It's changing right here. Right? Watch. Now it's C2. Now it's C3. Now it's C4. Now it's C5. Now it's C6. So I can come over here to these and I can delete them. They have no value now, right? So if I move down, they're empty, 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 right? So I can take my formula here, which I've written, and I can go ahead to the edge here and pull this down. And Google is going to automatically adjust the numbers that I let it adjust. So here, for example, C stays C, but the 2 now becomes a 3, and then becomes a 4, and then becomes a 5, right? So 5 is 5 here. So that's why you want to write formulas that can be adjustable when you pull them down. Now sometimes you want to do more than just one little column like this. You want to do many columns, and we're going to talk about that later. But for now, this is the simple way to think about it. So we write this formula, which looks kind of complicated, but it's not so complicated once you understand it. And of course, remember, we can always jump over to the AI to ask it how to write the formula. And easier than even that is just use Google's example. So you could ask AI, how can I get a sum of a number? And then it would tell you use the sum if. But then you can come over to the Google sheet and type in sum if, and then it will give you an example of exactly how to write the sum if. Okay, so what do we have so far? Let me zoom out a little bit here. We've got group 2, group 3, group 4. They still have 3 seats left. Group 1 has only 2 seats left. Why is that? Because in the join group, somebody has chosen 1. Now I can just go ahead and type in here. This is obviously just testing. So if I type another 1, and then I type another 1 here, and then I come back to the links. Now look, we have 0 seats available. How did we get to 0? Because we used that formula right there. It went ahead and it added up. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, divided by 3, and then we're going to have no seats left, right? So we've got 0 left because it's J2, which is going to be way over here, Hij, here, J2, 3, minus the 1 plus the 1 plus the 1 divided by the group number. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, divided by 1 is 3. We have 3 empty seats. Those 3 empty seats are now used up because we already wrote maximum of 3. And so now we get a 0 here. Now if we came back to the join group and we added one more 1 here, we would have a problem because now we've got minus 1 empty seats. So we have too many people choosing group 1. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 people choosing group 1. That's too many. This was one of the problems we talked about that we need to overcome. Now, how do we fix this problem? Well, we fix this problem by having these links to the form change. So let's look here. We have 2 people now who have signed up. So we have 1 empty seat. Now, what you can do is this link here is going to go to the form. This link goes to the form. If I click this, it's going to open up the form. This link goes to the form. Just like when you give users a link to your survey form or to any kind of form, it goes right there. Now, if I come over to the join group and I add one more person, chooses one, watch what happens to the link. The link changes to full. There's no more link. There's no more link. And that prevents a user from clicking that because it's already full. So here we solve a problem. The problem being someone can choose too many people in a group. They can go over the 3. Now we prevent that from happening. So that's what we'll look at that code next.